Yeah, thank you very much indeed for all of you for joining us for this session this morning. I'm Louise, as you can see, from Cambridge Network. I'm the one who sends you loads of emails. So yes, I do exist. We've been running lots of webinars, certainly over the lockdowns, obviously, as everybody did. In the real world now, we also run lots of face-to-face things.
I was worried that was like join in.
Hang on, there's somebody not on mute. Let me stop. Yeah, muted you. So yeah, we run lots of events, some are face-to-face. We've continued doing some webinars as they also work quite well for people to just duck in and learn something, you know, in a spare moment or to visit afterwards, which is fantastic. Today we're welcoming Chris Dunn from Chris Dunn Consulting, who did a session for us during lockdown, and it went down really, really well. So he's come up with a new subject which actually has worked out really well. We've got so much interest actually in this topic, Chris, which is fantastic. And Chris will be going around the benefits of coaching and mentoring and why everyone should have one and what the differences are and all of that sort of good stuff. So I won't go into that anymore. We are going to make it interactive, so there'll be lots and lots of chance to add in any questions you may have. If you want to pop them in the chat, I'll be monitoring that. I will be here. And then we'll get to those at various different points throughout the session as well. Right. I think that's all I needed to say. Chris, over to you. I'll keep admitting people.
All right, that's wonderful. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining Louise and myself today. It really is wonderful to see so many people wanting to spend this hour with Louise and myself and to engage with the topic of coaching and mentoring. We really appreciate your attendance, and I hope that we can deliver some value to you over the next few minutes. As Louise has mentioned, you will get a copy of the presentation that forms the framework for this webinar, and you'll also get a link to the recording, which hopefully will go okay, but we'll see how things pan out over the next hour or so. We've got quite a lot to cover, so if you don't mind, I think it's probably worthwhile us just jumping straight in. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, all right. So as has been mentioned, this webinar really is for you if you're interested to learn more about coaching and mentoring, specifically here in the business context. If you're wondering, how coaching or mentoring might be able to add value to your business, particularly if you commission coaching and mentoring and you're interested in the potential ROI of employing a business coach or mentor. And also specifically, if you're wondering how you would go about finding a coach or mentor within the Cambridge area or nationally, potentially, if you're looking for online sessions. So we'll cover that a little bit as we go on. As has been mentioned by Louise, we do want this webinar to be interactive because we've got quite a few people on the call. Louise has put you on mute, but I would really encourage you, please, to use the chat, ask questions, share your thoughts. And what we will do is we'll come back to the points that you raise as we go through the webinar. So hopefully that's all okay with you. Louise is manning the chat. I'm going to plow on with some of the talking. So I've got a few key messages that I want to get across to you, if that's okay. But first of all, I'd like to start with a quick question for you, just to get you jumping into the chat, hopefully. So would you maybe quickly just type into the chat if you are a coach or mentor yourself, like myself, or if you potentially are being coached or mentored at this current moment in time, or potentially if you're looking for a coach or mentor for yourself or for your business, or if you've just got a general interest in the subject matter. So if you just pop in there, I'm already a coach, I'm interested in coaching, I'd like to know more about how I would go about getting coached. Just pop some comments in there, and what we'll do is we'll come back to them in just a quick moment. So I can see that the chat is pinging away like crazy. So thank you very much, everyone, for taking the trouble to pop in some comments. Louise, would you like just to read out a couple of the comments so that we understand who's on the call with us today.
Yeah, we've got Matt, who is a mentor at the moment, has been a coach with his previous employer. Somebody else, Michelle, is thinking of running a mentoring scheme. Roland has been a coach in a previous role and had a mentor many years ago. Elizabeth is a coach. Sonia isn't a qualified coach, but as head of HR tends to coach and mentor managers and employees on a daily basis. Bryony, I think, is a mentor to interns at Illumina, but interested to know more. Olivia is a mentor. Rich is a coach. Claire is for general interest and wants to develop it a little bit more across the business. Trying to improve. Courtney's trying to improve their mentoring scheme. All of the above, Ellie says. There are many. It's a mix. Mentoring a colleague, qualified coach, someone starting ILM level 5. Already a coach, wanting to develop mentoring, wanting to learn more about coaching, general interest, considering where to put this in the priority list.
Right. Okay. Well, that's really interesting then.
Yeah,
Louise.
complete mix. We've got loads of them.
Well, the good news for everyone who's been participating so far in the chat is you're definitely in the right session today. And good news for me is that I'm among friends, so people that are already coaching or mentoring or very interested in the subject matter. So thank you very much for that. What I want to do now is just to move swiftly into a very, very quick comment about me, because you're possibly wondering, who the hell am I and why am I doing this? So I'm Chris Dunn. I am a consultant. I'm also a coach, so that's quite an unusual mixture. And there are probably 3 facts that might be interesting for today. The first one is that I'm a GrowthWorks expert advisor. The relevance of that is that GrowthWorks is our local enterprise partnership growth hub, and they potentially may be able to offer partial funding towards the cost of business coaching and mentoring. And certainly through myself or through other GrowthWorks expert advisors, that could be of interest to people on the call today. I'm a full member of the Association of Business Mentors. This is the UK's only association for professional business mentors, and they're a very interesting source of information about mentoring in general. One of the ladies on the call today is studying for a coaching badge through the ILM. So big thumbs up to you. I'm also partway through my study program on ILM 7, which is the certificate in executive coaching and mentoring. And partly because I'm doing that, I'm able to devote time to study, but also time to practical application. And that's why I'm offering some free coaching directly with me as a result of carrying out this webinar. So if you're interested potentially in partnering with me, I'll talk a little bit later about the offer that I can make for free coaching. And then finally, if you want to know anything more about me, because I've already said quite a lot, then feel free to go to my website. The URL's on screen right now, and don't be fooled by the company name Chris Dunn Consulting. I can confirm that I do both consulting and coaching. Again, if there's any questions or comments at this moment, please feel free to just pop them in the chat. Okay, so with all of that said, let's move on into the topic matter itself. So this may seem like a slightly cheeky question, and considering that we've got so many expert people on the call today, but I'm just wondering whether everyone on the call is 100% clear on what coaching and mentoring actually is. So, feel free to type yes or no or not sure in the chat. Don't worry if you're not sure, by the way. There's an enormous amount of confusion. And of course, coaching and mentoring has got quite a bit of overlap with other disciplines such as consulting, counselling, training, teaching, and so on. So just pop in the chat whether you're absolutely fine on your definition of coaching and mentoring, or you're not 100% clear, and then that will help me for the next bit of this webinar. Okie dokie. So we've got some things coming through in the chat, which is lovely.
Yeah, can you read them? I like Rich's. Absolutely 100% confused.
So give us a little bit of a flavour, please, Louise, as to what everyone is saying at this moment about.
It is a complete mix, actually. We've got several people who, yes, they're happy with the distinctions. Several are not sure with them. Somebody says there seems to be a crossover. Somebody is clear but have heard others with different clarities, and keen to hear a concise definition. Somebody else is a coach, but is he also a mentor? Not quite sure. Clarification needed.
All right. Well, this is wonderful. So, by the way, there is this kind of huge overlap, really, in terms of what people might define coaching and mentoring as. And actually, there isn't one accepted definition for coaching or for mentoring. So don't worry if you're not 100% clear. I think the point is that sometimes the label coach and mentor is used interchangeably, so you can arguably be both, but I'll come to that in a moment. And sometimes there are some crossovers in coaching versus, for example, training. Sometimes there are some crossovers in mentoring versus, for example, advisory or consulting. So there are labels, but there are some relatively clear boundaries. And I think I'd like to just try and give a little bit more clarity, if I may. So I'm just trying to move on to the next slide. Excuse me, my computer seems to have frozen. It's probably easiest for us to sort of start off with a clear understanding as to what coaching and mentoring definitely are not. So if we look at consulting, and I can say this for sure because I do an awful lot of business consulting, a consultant really is a subject matter expert. So it's someone who knows a lot about business in general or a specific business element, which could be leadership or strategy or development and so on. And that person really is an expert and comes in and will present you often with solutions which are based around prior knowledge or best practice. Now, coaches and mentors aren't really like that. You know, we don't come in and give you solutions to your business problems. And I'll come to what coaches and mentors actually do in a minute. Training, we look at training, you know, a trainer teaches specific skills or imparts particular knowledge and often instructs in an area of technical or business expertise. Coaches and mentors aren't teachers or instructors. We may facilitate learning, and in fact that's one of the big aims of a coach, is to facilitate learning, but actually we don't teach, and we certainly don't teach specific subjects to specific individuals in a business context. And of course, counselling is a one-to-one. It's a very confidential kind of a relationship, in the same way that coaching and mentoring is. But a counsellor really is there to deal with emotional issues and particularly past traumas. Coaches obviously deal with the person and personal inspiration and personal development and personal learning. But actually, we're not there to deal with emotional problems. We're not there to deal with trauma. And if actually we do end up talking to clients that have got those specific issues, we will refer to trained counsellors and trained therapists. Okay, so that hopefully gives you a good understanding as to what is off limits, really, from a coaching and a mentoring perspective. So we're very interested to just get some comments coming through potentially on the chat as relates to that. And then I'm going to go into what specifically coaching is. Does anyone violently agree or disagree with anything that's on screen at the moment? What are we seeing, Louise?
No comments at all.
No comments at all. All right. So everyone's absolutely keen to jump into coaching and mentoring.
Yep.
So coaching and mentoring, these actually are very, very similar. The labels also are used quite interchangeably. So coaching and mentoring really have the same broad aim in a business context. So the objective of both these disciplines is to stimulate development and growth for the client. And coaching and mentoring, they both take place as a series of confidential conversations, usually one-to-one, but they can sometimes be in small groups. And what we're trying to do at that particular point is to help individuals or those groups to grow and develop. The differences between the two are the way in which this growth and development is actually achieved. So if we look at coaching, and I'm going to read this out in detail, coaching is a process carried out by a professional practitioner trained in coaching techniques such as skillful questioning and active listening, focused observation, deep reflection, and the aim is to help clients to unlock their innate potential for growth, change, and increased performance. Or as Anne Skulak really succinctly puts it, coaching is about drawing out the abilities from within the person. So a coach believes that the person already has what they need to succeed. It's a question of helping them to find the best way of going about developing, growing, and learning. So once that's established, a coach will then allow the coachee to follow their path and to self-develop. So that's coaching. Mentoring is slightly different. So a mentee sometimes will need a helping hand. So they might have got quite a long way up the mountain, to use this visual analogy, but they might need that helping hand to get them right to the summit. And so mentoring is an ongoing relationship of trust. And it's usually between a more experienced person and a less experienced person. And that more experienced person is giving the less experienced person access to their own personal and professional knowledge, and often opening up advice, guidance, contacts, and networking for someone that they actually are mentoring. So those are, if you like, the definitions of coaching and mentoring that I'd like to share with you right now. And I would just like to summarize by comparing coaching and mentoring and giving you the key differences in a business context. Okay, so a business coach is someone who's going to draw wisdom, insight, and creativity out of the people that they're coaching, whereas a business mentor is there to add advice, guidance, and contacts to help the people that they're mentoring. And as I've said before, both the coach and the mentor are all about helping their coachee or mentee to grow and develop. They do that in a highly supportive environment. And key to that highly supportive environment are the concepts of integrity, confidentiality, empathy, support, encouragement. And the overall objective within a business context is that the coaching and the mentoring is performance enhancing from an individual, team, and business perspective. Okay, so I've gone through quite a lot there. So I'd probably like to try and catch my breath, if that's okay with everyone, and just ask you to put into the chat whether you kind of agree or not with this way of defining coaching and mentoring. I'd be particularly interested in your views as well, so please share them.
Yeah, we have got some comments. What do we say? Yeah, we're talking about the definitions, just saying, yeah, great definitions. In practice, it might get a little bit fuzzy, and there probably is a blend. as managers, we tend to coach, counsel, train, and there was a bit of a discussion there as well, like whether it's coaching and training but can't turn into counselling, but somebody else is saying maybe it could do because of the relationship in the situation.
Okay.
And question, are you suggesting mentoring is within the organisation and coaching from outside?
Oh, well, this is really quite interesting. We'll come to a little bit more detail in a minute, but can I just pick up on a couple of things that came through the chat? Because obviously I'm trying to give some really tightly defined definitions. It's quite right, I think, everyone on this particular webinar is pointing out that there is some blurring of the lines, and there should be, because coaching and mentoring and really other professional services which are personal in this way are centered around the needs of the individual and partly and certainly in line with the objectives of the organization. And so if you are, for example, in an HR function or in a learning and development function, it's entirely true to say that you might be, for example, in HR doing a little bit of counselling as well as coaching. It might be that if you're an L&D, you might be doing a little bit of training as well as some specific on-the-job coaching as well. But I think in a strictly professional context, and certainly at the higher levels of an organisation, the thought is that individuals, relatively senior managers, tend to have all of the technical skills that they need to do the roles that they've been entrusted with. And the coaching really is to help to generate within those senior managers more self-awareness, to help them to uncover some potential blind spots that they might have, and then to work on them. So, sometimes those blind spots might come out of a 360-degree evaluation. They might come out of some form of an insights program, but then coaching may be the means to address them and to help managers then to hone their skills and to become even better from a management and a leadership point of view. So should coaching come from inside, or should it come from outside of the organisation? I think the truth is that obviously there are individuals such as myself who would sit outside of the organisation and would come in and offer specific benefits. There will be people who have coaching training and qualifications employed within organisations who can also fulfil coaching and mentoring roles. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's perfectly fine to have internal coaches. And I think probably most of us on this call would agree that part of being a leader or a manager is being able to coach and mentor your own teams and actually people in your organisation from different functions. So coaching and mentoring, I think, can be internal, but it can be useful to get external support dependent on the programme that you're looking to run. So hopefully that answers a little bit of some of the questions that came up. Are there any more that we're seeing?
Yes, we've had many, but I'm just a bit worried about time. What shall I draw out? Some people are saying, yeah, the skills of coaching and mentoring are very different, and they agree, and others are saying, why the separation? But I think you've covered that actually if there's a sort of blended approach, possibly in talking to somebody, that might cover that.
Okay,
some people are acting as coaches and mentors, yeah, but the skills are different.
Yes. Okay. So I will. One thing I can just say to everyone is you'll get my details afterwards. So please feel free. If you want to drop me a line in any way, or just give me a call, or even just send me an email if you've got something specific that you want to ask me. Then I'm more than happy to pick up anything after this webinar. Just on that point of coaching and mentoring, they are actually different in the sense that coaching is most definitely about drawing out that additional improved performance from within the person, Mentoring is very often about helping a person to perform better by adding in some guidance or adding in some additional contacts or adding in some additional knowledge that they may not yet have acquired. And to the point, could a coach also be a mentor? Then the answer is yes. If a coach has got specific experience, maybe of the same role that the coachee is in, or comes from exactly the same industry as the coachee is in, then it's very possible that a coach can also mentor. And conversely, if a mentor is trained in coaching techniques and refrains from giving advice and guidance unless specifically asked, then a mentor could also coach. Okay, so these definitions are a little bit fluid, and the practice is also a little bit fluid as well. So, you wouldn't necessarily be in a coaching conversation and then have the ability to offer some advice and not give it. So the definitions are not absolutely hard and fast, okay?
We had an interesting comment, and I know that you want to get on, but Emma has pointed out, I don't think experienced individuals are always the natural mentor. Reverse mentoring is equally beneficial. Yes,
that's a brilliant comment. Thank you very much for that. Mentoring really is a two-way street, and mentoring is often done voluntarily. I've been doing mentoring, for example, for over 10 years now at the Judge Business School, and I think there are about 60 other mentors that do this as well. And when we chat over dinner, what we actually find is that we learn as much really from the mentees as they potentially learn from us. So reverse mentoring, to use that term, is definitely a thing, and the relationship definitely is two-way. Okay, Louise, if it's okay with you and also with the participants, sorry, on this webinar, I'd love then just to move on now into some of the ROI type aspects.
Yeah, perfect. I can read the chat and read out the questions we haven't done later on.
Okay, that's absolutely perfect. Okay, so if we then move on into this next section, there's always the big question, is it worth having a business coach? Because, coaches do cost money. And the survey information that came out actually in 2021 from the Henley Business School, and the average cost in the UK of executive business coaching is somewhere between £200 and £300 per hour. So certainly at the more senior level, there is an expenditure and investment that is being made in coaching. And the question is it worthwhile? What you're seeing on screen at the moment is a high-level summary of a survey that was carried out in 2019 by the International Coaching Federation. So there's roughly 22,000 respondents to this particular survey across 160 countries. And the survey set out to really understand whether individuals were getting benefit from coaching. And as you can see here, individuals were reporting that they were either somewhat or very satisfied, 99% of them, and that they felt that coaching was helping them in a number of key areas, including, building of self-confidence, communication skills, also helping them to view work-life balance differently, and specifically from a business context, helping to improve their work performance. So individuals clearly are getting benefit from being coached. The question, of course, is if the companies are paying for this coaching, are they actually seeing a return on the money that they are investing? And again, this particular survey is quite clear. 86% of companies are actually seeing a return on investment. And on average, that return on investment is something like excuse me, I've got something popping off my screen. It's something like three times the money invested. Okay. Is everyone still seeing my screen? Okay, so I've got a load of things that have popped up that have covered it. Can you just?
I can. All good.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, that's just something happening in the background for me. Apologies for that. So in the survey, up to some people reported up to 50 times ROI, but on average, they were suggesting something like 3 times from an ROI perspective. If we, I'm just getting rid of the things on my screen. I do apologise because it's stopping my buttons being shown. If we look at business mentoring, there are fewer sources of information relating to business mentoring. So what I've done is I've looked at the Mentoring Matters survey, which was commissioned in October 2022 by the UK government as part of their Help to Grow programme. Now, Help to Grow programme is a very interesting programme. If you've never heard of it, it's designed to help SMEs with business training from UK business schools. And as part of that business training, there is also some free mentoring on offer from individuals such as myself. And the Mentoring Matters survey showed that 76% of respondents who had received mentoring as part of Help to Grow found that it was supporting their business growth. And there are a lot of benefits that came out in the qualitative analysis in this survey, and they included the benefit of having a sounding board, the benefit for leaders specifically of SMEs of having a critical friend, a confidant, someone to hold them to account in the way that potentially they wouldn't be held to account in their business because they don't necessarily have boards, and actually someone to help them with critical thinking and strategic positioning. So the benefits of having a business mentor, I think, are really quite well established as well. And if you sort of have a little bit of a trawl around the internet, look at some of the research, what the Mentoring Matters survey is documenting is very, very similar to other research that you can see. So there definitely is a benefit to having a business mentor as well. So there's probably a lot of things coming through in the chat, I would imagine at this stage. I'll be very interested, Louise, to hear what everyone is saying.
Where do we get to? Would you agree that coaching is just part of being a manager and a leader, e.g. the coaching stage and the situational leadership model?
Wow. Coaching is definitely, I think all leaders should be coaches, and I think they should be trained. And one of the great things at the moment is that more and more managers are getting training in coaching. And that is obviously having a huge benefit, I think, in terms of personal development of their teams, and also in terms of employee engagement. So I certainly agree with that. I think leaders and managers should be coaches. I'm not entirely sure that leaders and managers need to go to the point of being professional coaches, because there's an awful lot of training that actually has to go into becoming a qualified coach. And there's an awful lot of practice hours that you have to get under your belt, and a lot of supervision that has to be done as well. And that's often potentially difficult if you've got a full-time job at the same time. But the basic point I'd certainly agree with. Yeah, the more coaching that goes on within business, whether it's internal or external, the better.
Yeah. Joanna sort of followed up with that a little bit. Like, the biggest challenge with internal coaches when they are the direct manager is that there can be an agenda that the manager has, but professional coaches are impartial. And there's differences which play to one situation or another more effectively, she goes on to say.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, we could probably cheerfully spend a whole hour talking about the setting up a coaching engagement, and how you would contract and the do's and don'ts and so on. Yeah. That's a whole other subject. But I'm just assuming that with the participants on the call today, we would all set this up within a proper coaching program. We'd be aware of potential conflicts of interest. We would be trying to develop programs that work in the interests of individuals to allow them to develop and grow through coaching.
Yeah, we've got a question. They picked you up on the ROI slide on coaching, I think it was. She was wondering, Emma's wondering how you can tell a coach that their ROI will be 3 times like the benefit.
There are many different ways of measuring. Oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Have a good
Hang
one.
on. Let me get them. Jess, can you put yourself on mute? I don't get to you first, right?
So,
Got her.
so sorry. Okay, so I think it's a really fair point. So the information I'm just giving at the moment comes from a survey of 22,500 people who were coached by accredited coaches from the ICF. Obviously, the ROI on a coaching engagement would have to be measured, and it would be part of the engagement to define how you would measure the benefit. So ultimately what you would be doing is agreeing some coaching goals. You'd be looking for some specific outcomes, and you would be looking to see that those outcomes are tied back to business objectives, and that those business objectives are insofar as possible measurable. And in that way, you should be able to develop a model to bring back the return on the investment that you make in coaching. Okay. So hopefully that's.
I think we should carry on.
All right. So there's some brilliant questions. Again, if there's anything specifically that you want to ask me after the call, you've got my information. Please feel free to reach out. So let me move on to the next area of this particular webinar, which is, how would you go about finding a coach or a mentor? So first thing to mention is that unfortunately, although coaching and mentoring have been around for a long time in business, at least 50 years, it's still an unregulated area. So it's obviously not like financial advisors, it's not like counselors and so on. So you need to think about the fact that not all coaches and mentors are equally qualified or experienced. So a bit of due diligence, I think, is worthwhile here. Bona fide coaches and mentors are likely to be credentialed by either the ICF that we've mentioned already, or in the UK, just as likely by the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. EMCC actually has its own code of conduct, which I, for one, abide by, and I know that pretty much every coach and mentor would sign up to. So those are quite important factors to bear in mind. How do people actually go about finding a coach or mentor? Well, funny enough, most people still get their coaches or mentors in either individually or as businesses through personal recommendation and referrals. Some people will go to coaching and mentoring membership websites. So we've already mentioned the Association of Business Mentors. So there'll be a Find a Business Mentor page that you can go to there, and with the specialism of those individual mentors. And you'll know that they are approved and have been vetted. So that's one way of going out about finding a mentor. Obviously, there are professional bodies such as the ILM, and you can look up mentors through there. There's actually a government website called Mentoring Me that's got a list of mentors as well, and organisations that carry out coaching and mentoring. And of course, you could just carry out an internet search, and that will bring back a whole load of organizations, platforms, online platforms, individual coaches and mentors as well. So those are the key ways of going about finding a coach or a mentor. It's important to note that there are opportunities, as I mentioned earlier, to possibly get discounted or even free coaching and mentoring dependent upon your professional status. So we've already talked about largish companies having their own internal coaches and having their own mentoring programs. So that's really quite common these days. So if you're an individual and you're employed in one of these large organizations, then you've undoubtedly the opportunity to sign up to a corporate program, which would be free to you, of course, although it's costly for the organization itself to run. There are member-to-member mentoring schemes through certain professional bodies, such as the Chartered Institute of Personnel. You might, if you're in a pure business context and perhaps being a founder or a startup enterprise, you might be able to get business mentoring through an incubator program, such as Cambridge Accelerate. So once you're on their program, they're likely to be offering mentoring to help you through the growth phases. And as I've already mentioned, the UK government is running a Help to Grow program for SMEs that costs £750, includes training through UK business schools, and also 10 hours of mentoring with a professional mentor. So those are kind of areas where you might be able to access free coaching or mentoring. It's worth also just mentioning that certain organisations, such as the Institute of Directors, they offer their members discounted mentoring through the Association of Business Mentors. GrowthWorks, I've mentioned before, so that's our local growth hub. And you may find that you get match funding on a 50-50 basis if you have coaching and mentoring, which is designed to help the business grow. And of course, you may get certain practitioners who could be offering discounted sessions. And one common thing that coaches and mentors tend to do is to offer slightly lower rates for online coaching sessions compared to face-to-face. So that gives you a little bit of an understanding as to how you might be able to get a deal on your coaching and mentoring if you're thinking of going in that direction. So at this point, a little bit of a pause. Any thoughts on the through the chat here on where to get coaching and mentoring? What maybe people have already done?
No, but we have a question saying, is it common to pay for a mentor? So you might have kind of addressed that.
Well, can I just quickly pick up on that one? There is, in a sense, a common misconception that coaching is paid and mentoring is free. And it is often the case that mentoring is entirely voluntary. So using the example of Help to Grow, guys like myself give up our time for free to support that program. And it is also true that, within a company context, quite often people will very generously give up their time for free to help others to attain their goals. So mentoring can be free, but it's not always free. And certainly at the more senior levels, mentoring is often a paid service.
Yeah, and somebody else has asked for referrals, and that kind of goes back to your word of mouth way of finding people.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as I say, referrals are really quite important. But one thing that is critically important before anyone sort of jumps into a coaching and mentoring relationship with anyone is to establish the contracting basis, to establish the goals and the objectives, and most importantly, to actually meet the coach who's going to be doing the coaching, or the mentor who's going to be doing the mentoring, because the relationship, the human chemistry is absolutely vital. This is a relationship of trust, and you really do need to find the person who is going to help the person that requires the coaching and mentoring, and that those people are going to get on and that they are going to be helped by the program. Not everyone is coachable, incidentally, but coachability is important, that people are willing to go down the route of actually self-learning, self-discovery in order to develop with the guidance of a coach or a mentor.
I'm conscious that we've got about 10 minutes left. We do have another question, but I don't know if you want to get that at the end or
shall I take that one just at the end, if that's okay?
We'll do that at the end, yeah.
Yeah, so I just very quickly want to just pop over to a special offer that I'm making. So obviously we've got 40 odd people on this webinar at the moment. I'm very happy to offer some free coaching or mentoring to anyone on this particular call, or to one person on this particular call. And I'm also very happy to have a chat to see if other people are also interested. So if I can't offer obviously 40 people free coaching or mentoring, but I may be able to offer a group of people some discounted coaching or mentoring. So if you're at all interested in any of that, then do please get in touch with me. And the best way to do that really, I think, would be to just jump onto my website, book a call using this Calendly link. And incidentally, you can do this if you've got any question at all, whether or not you're interested in any coaching that I might be able to offer to you. Okay. Right. Okay. So we'll move then, with all of that said, over to any further questions.
Right, yeah, we've got a couple of good questions. Penny is asking, can you explain the difference between mentoring and sponsoring to the group?
That's a fabulous question, Penny. Thank you very much. Very little difference, if any. So in the US, mentoring is often considered to be exactly as you say, Penny, sponsorship. It's where a high potential person is being taken under the wing of a person who's already very well established in the position that high potential person potentially aspires to get to. And in that sense, they're being sponsored by that senior person and are a protege, for want of a better word. So I think being sponsored, if you are a mentee, is potentially a fast track to help you possibly jump one or two rungs on the corporate ladder, provided that you have got the potential to make those steps quite quickly. Any more questions coming up, Louise?
Yeah, Robert is saying, hang on a minute, let me just expand the screen. Discussion of mentoring so far appears to include career mentoring, which is suggestions for how to grow professionally, a sounding board, and business mentoring, focused on business growth. These feel sufficiently different in their aims that they might need separate consideration. Do you consider such a distinction relevant?
Yes, I think so. As someone, and I know we've got other coaches and mentors on the call right now, a mentor might have specific knowledge, may have some specific skills, so they could be sector or role specific potentially. So a mentor needs to be matched to the mentee, and the mentor also needs to be providing advice and guidance which is updated and current and relevant to the mentee's needs. So ultimately what we're looking to do as mentors is to help people in whom we can see potential to move in the direction that they want to move into, which we can help with because we've already taken that journey ourselves. So mentors can and should be a specialist. So you can certainly have a career mentor You could certainly have a business mentor who's giving you some help and advice in, for example, strategic decisions, or you can actually have almost a personal mentor who is more of a role model and is helping you with certain aspects of bringing out the best in yourself. So you might be slightly underconfident potentially, and a mentor could help you to build that confidence, partly through helping you with some knowledge and helping you to fill in some of your skills gaps. So I think mentoring is quite specific. And again, just like coaching, it's important that the mentee and the mentor find that relationship of equals where they feel relaxed enough to partner, and that the mentee can take from the mentor something that they really need for their own development.
Fabulous. Yeah, good question here. What is Chris's advice regarding who should initiate a potential mentoring relationship, the mentor or the mentee?
Well, that's also very interesting. Generally, it's the mentee. In all of this, it is the mentee and the coachee, if you like, who really are the key beneficiaries of the mentoring and the coaching. So mentors, I think, really do love to give back. That's certainly been my experience. But we don't necessarily go out looking for people to mentor. It's more the case that mentees are looking for some help, guidance, sponsorship, to use that word from Penny. And I would say just ask if you are looking to get that help from a mentor. If there's someone that you think could particularly help you, then ask for that help. You'd be surprised at how often a potential mentor will say yes, because we've all been on the sort of road that the mentee is on, and generally we're quite happy to support them in their journey.
Perfect. Right, we've got Ellie is saying, in relation to managers being coaches but not officially trained as coaches, is it okay to say that they are coaches, or simply that they are bringing coaching approaches to their management and we shouldn't refer to it as coaching?
That wouldn't be for me to say. I think it depends. Coaching is a specific discipline. So if your managers have been trained in some of the basic coaching techniques and they are applying them correctly, then by definition they are coaches. And I think that's the key thing. So if they're actually fulfilling that coaching role, no reason why they shouldn't be called internal coaches. Obviously, if it's just a question of buddying up or giving a bit of advice every now and then, that's not the same as being a mentor or a coach.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And I think this might be the last one. I was trained as a coach. This is Matt speaking, not me. I was trained as a coach at my previous employer via their internal program. I'd love to do more now in my spare time. Any advice on the best approaches to get back into it? Well,
it's just funny that I've just popped up on screen some further things there, Matt. I'd encourage you, if you grab this presentation after the event now, to just have a quick look through some of the information here. Reading is quite a good place to start, for sure. There's some great books. And then in terms of wanting to go back into coaching, I think it would depend on whether you want to do that from within an organization or whether you want to do it independently, because as I've mentioned before, there's nothing to stop anyone, qualified or otherwise, setting themselves up as a coach or a mentor. But it is advisable to just make sure that you are confident, competent and properly qualified. So I'd say potentially take some further training, and there are plenty of training courses out there that might help you.
Fabulous. Saying thank you very much for a brilliant session. And somebody else has recommended the John Whitmore book about a simple but very effective grow model.
Yes, so I don't know who said that, but
It was Paul Thomas.
Right, Paul, thank you very much. I mean, Sir John Whitmore is, you know, the guru in terms of coaching performance. I certainly recommend his book. Certainly also recommend the Grow model. And actually, there are many other models that can be applied in coaching. But thank you very much for that shout out. It is actually on, I think, on the book list that comes as part of this presentation pack. So I very much appreciate you flagging it. Just to sort of summarize from my point of view, because I know that we are definitely out of time. And by the way, I was really worried that we wouldn't have enough material. So thank you very much for everything that you've contributed today. Please feel free to contact me at any point. I will have a good look through some of the comments in the chat. If I've missed any, I'll try to address them. And it's been an absolute pleasure spending this last hour in your company. So thank you very much, everyone.
That's great. And thank you, Chris, for sharing this with us as well. It was something that we just thought this might be a really good topic to provoke a bit of debate. And I think we have. And I think you've proved the point that, yes, there are fuzzy definitions, but actually this has really, really helped. We've had some brilliant comments, but you'll get a copy of the chat, Chris, so you can have a look through. So yeah, thanks for a very clear presentation as well. Elizabeth said before she dropped off the call, even as an established coach, it's useful to hear different perspectives about what coaching is about. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for doing this for us and all your preparation. Yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with Chris, you've got all of his details there. And don't forget, he's offering that one-to-one coaching session with somebody if they would like to take him up on that and fit all the criteria. So thank you very much. We'll process the recording, we'll send out the slides, and you'll have lots of information, and hope to see you at the next one. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.